Welcome back to the booth here at the World Championship for 2018. My name's Ronnie Knight, greeting you for the first time today. Joining me, my partner in crime, Mr. Dr. Professor Simon Goertzen. And I tell you what, we got a real showstopper lined up for you. In the feature match area for this round, Márcio Carvalho facing off against Owen Turtenwald. We have people from, the very top echelon of competitive Magic, Simon, which is to be expected at a tournament of this level.
Two of the best players in the game, period. You see the 4 and the 5 there. For me, Márcio Carvalho is one of the best players in Europe, of course, with strong ties to Latin America. And Owen Turtenwald is just one of the best players that is based in the US. One
of the best players of the modern era, but a transatlantic bout between these two players at 3 and 2, Simon. We're going to see how things shape up between Carvalho and Turtenwald. Carvalho on the left of your screen, as you can see, getting underway with Red-black Aggro. Certainly the orthodox, the mainstream choice for this tournament, with over 50% of the field playing old whirly dubs there. But Owen Turtenwald bucking the trend with white-blue gifts.
Would you have expected it? Like, Owen Turtenwald is somebody I associate heavily with Red-black Aggro. And he's going for the metagame call. 3-2, it's early to say. It's not a great record, but at this small tournament, it doesn't really say too much.
Yeah, he certainly has zagged on us all here, Turts, because we were expecting him to sort of stick to the guns that he's been using for a long time. But no, caught us all off guard here. Carvalho, however, taking a more orthodox line and firing off an Abrade now against a Minister of Inquiries. Abrade, a fantastic card in this matchup, Simon, for more reasons than one, but principally its ability to take down the 7-drop GPG.
Yep. So actually a small victory for Owen that it has already been used here. But of course, Márcio is looking to push his advantage. Didn't want to let Owen mill any cards into his graveyard.
Carvalho also on that savage curve out here. Look at that, the 1-2-3 punch from the Portuguese player. Turtenwald playing a little bit of catch-up already. Champion of Wit's going to help him churn through that deck, dump some cards in the bin. But I can see Lyra Dawnbringer in the hand of Turtenwald. Not a slam dunk main deck inclusion in gifts, but a great call today.
An interesting decision for a main deck inclusion, absolutely. But you can see that Owen heavily tuned this deck for the metagame he was expecting. One thing that we've noticed is these players are very good at predicting what their opponents were bringing to the tournament.
Really interesting wrinkle, Simon, on this, on the highest level of competitive Magic, given the fact that these players were able to really tune their list. I mean, I heard Siggy before, Mike Sigris, the famed Brad Nelson impersonator, talking about the fact that he was essentially pre-boarded against Red-black.
Yeah, and that's a great choice. If half of the players, 13 players, I believe, playing Red-black, you should be.
Carvalho now, as we said, he's had a great curve out now, just gone from hit to hit. Bomat Courier through to Pianala and Goblin Chainwhirler. But here's Turtenwald now, flashing back a Sun Scourge champion, discarding champion. It's going to gain some life. And again, we see the impact of these main deck cards that are sort of not quite silver bullets, bronze bullets, shall we say. Brass bullets, Simon, against certain decks in the format. So Turtenwald gains 4, buffering that life total. Very important in this matchup, of course. 2 copies of Sun Scourge Champion in his main deck. I mean, we've seen this. This isn't, ridiculous off-the-wall technology, but it's obviously it's going to pay dividends here for the American Hall of Famer.
Yeah, actually, I find the 2 Lyras more surprising. Wow, but what a draw by Márcio.
Yeah, it's gone really well. And look at this Bomat Courier as well. He's got mail falling out of the post bag here as he hurries about his appointed rounds. Neither rain nor glom, or nor rain, nor snow, nor glom of knit will keep this messenger from his appointed rounds. Let's see what Turtenwald's working with here with a strategic planning. Bidding another Sun Scourge champion. That's a nice hit here for him.
It is, but it's very late. The Red-black deck is just doing what it's doing best. Just one piece of disruption and an incredible curve out. Then suddenly there's a whole new hand hidden under Bomat Courier if that wasn't enough.
Carvalho doesn't even need it, however. He's going to get the job done with the tools he had. We didn't even wait for the postman to arrive before wrapping Turtenwald up, putting him in the ground here. So a very convincing performance from Márcio Carvalho. His Red-black Aggro deck firing on all cylinders, I think you have to say, We didn't see Turtenwald come up with the goods this time, Simon. All the pre-boarding in the world didn't get it done for him.
And I'm getting a bit concerned because all these players that are bringing the metagame decks seem to be losing to Red-black in these early rounds.
My friends, we're going to go to a break. On the other side of it, more Standard coming your way from Las Vegas, USA. You're not going to want to miss a minute of it. We'll be back at the World Championship after this.
Always know the right play to make? Show off your skills at a local preliminary Pro Tour qualifier. With over 2,000 game stores worldwide running PPTQs, find an event near you at magic.wizards.com/PPTQ.
Welcome back to live coverage of the World Championship, coming to you from Las Vegas in the United States of America. Welcome, my friends, wherever you're joining us from Castlemaine to the Canary Islands. It's great to have your company. My name's Riley Knight, joined by my good friend and coverage colleague, the Pro Tour champion, Simon Gertzen. Simon, we saw Márcio Carvalho, the Portuguese player on the left-hand side of the screen, take out Owen Turtenwald very convincingly. Red-black aggro triumphing over white-blue gifts. Does this matchup change significantly post-board?
I'm looking at Marcio's sideboard right now, and I see three abrades already in the main deck. No further artifact removal. Not a lot of graveyard hate traditionally in these decks, but you can always bring in some duresses just to eliminate those really quick refurbished draws.
Obviously, Duress, not exactly the card you want against Godfarer's Gift. You're not discard, you're sort of helping them in that.
Here you go.
oh, that's the best. That's what the deck's named after. I'll snag that one. But no, snagging something like a refurbish is obviously going to be a great option there. I noticed that Turtenwald has got some spicy options in his board. 4 copies of History of Benalia, a couple of Teferis as well. Are these cards that he's looking at, these powerful mythics, or are they for other matchups?
History of Benalia cannot be for this matchup. And also Teferi, he's under so much pressure that I wouldn't expect this card here. It looks like he's choosing this deck because of the metagame, and then he wants to shore up his control matchup with these choices.
I think this is something we're going to see pretty significantly throughout the weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Within even red-black aggro decks themselves, they're going to come to this tournament pre-boarded. They're going to come to this tournament with cards that they expect to be good in the red-black matchup. Regardless of whether it's a mirror or not, we're going to see things like, for example, Sunscourge Champion, Lyra Dawnbringer in the main deck of white decks.
And we see main deck Doomfalls. We see a bunch of things that are really not standard at all in bigger GP-like standard events.
We'll see exactly how these players have configured themselves for these post-board games here. Of course, Carvalho off to a quick start. Both these players at 3 and 2. Let's talk about that for a little bit here, Simon, because it's not something that we see too often at the top level of Magic, you know, a feature match where the players are X and 2, unless we're, you know, right up against the top. Hey,
So-
talk to me about these records.
So if you're 3-2 at a GP, it means you're just coming off 3 buys and you lost your first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
If you're 3-2 at a Pro Tour, we're talking about, can this player still make top 8? Can they make
Can they
day
make day
2?
two?
They're struggling. And here, there's only one undefeated player left. So because it's such a small field, you're actually not looking at being eliminated or anything like that with an even record. So anything above that average is actually quite good. Also considering what you're up against.
Well, let's get it done here in game number 2. We will see those weird records continue throughout the weekend, I'm sure. But we're going to kick things off right now. Turtenwald, a good start for him with a Minister of Inquiry is going to open the books. The Parliament floor has been open, but, oh no, look at that. The Usher of the Black Rod sends all the ministers packing now with a magma spray. Turtenwald, strategic planning, and he's looking to fill that graveyard early and often, Simon.
Yeah, he has all these eternalized creatures, which are additional value for strategic planning. But once again, I think Márcio got the upper hand here because that minister is Owen's best way of filling his graveyard.
So Carvalho with the perfect answer there. Scrap Heap Scrounger joins the party, and that baffling end that Turtenwald has just binned would have been a good answer there. But instead, another minister and a Glacial Fortress here for the American. Back to Carvalho now, can see in his hand, plenty to work with. Kari Zev, Scrap Heap Scrounger, Canyon Slam, perhaps not the best card for him to work with here, but Hazard the Fervent. Nice piece of top-end business here for the Portuguese player.
Decent cards, but not spectacular. It's a good draw by Black-Red, of course, with curving out powerful cards. I mean, the deck is only powerful cards, if we're honest. But for example, not another Magma Spray for the Minister, no Abrade for the combo, and also no answers to something like a Lyra.
Turtenwald's had a bit of a stinker as well as we have a look at it here. Refurbish Angel of Invention and the old Glacial Fortress. He really needs to hit some stuff off of that Minister if he wants to get his snoot back into this game here. Going to mill himself straight away. Let's see what we hit. Well, Champion's a decent start, but oh, there's the Godfarer's Gift.
That's how you do it.
So, oh, fantastic. Great stuff here for Turtenwald as he slams the GPG into play. Christmas has come early, children, as we see an eternalized, in effect, Champion of Wits coming down, draw 4, discard 2, and all of a sudden, we've done a U-turn on a dime here, Simon.
Yeah, that was, it was the 3rd card milled as well. So it looked like there was kind of a bad turn.
I was like formulating 3 sentences ahead about how terrible this was, how Turtenwald was going down in flames. All of a sudden, he's just zagged on us once again.
And for those that haven't seen this before, once the Godfarer's Gift gets even a single trigger off, it kind of fuels itself. Now Owen has put the Angel of Invention that he had in hand into his graveyard. He also has another Refurbish, so he's safe from a Braid. And you will see once Angel of Invention gets eternalized by Godfarer's Gift, that it's all over.
Yeah, this is a very difficult thing for Carvalho to overcome here. Owen Turtenwald has banged it down, flipped it, and reversed it here. And the Hall of Famer, well and truly in the driver's seat. The fact that he had, the champion to bring back to add more fuel to this particular fire here. And triple Scrappy with a Karizev on top for Carvalho. But Turtenwald, look at that. He's strapped on his Santa costume. Whacked a pillow around his stomach with a big belt, big fake beard on, and he's down at the mall asking the kids what they want this December. Handing out gifts like there's no tomorrow. Lyra Dawnbringer hits the bin as well. Carvalho is really about to suffer his wrath. As an Angel of Invention going to pump up the jam as well as we see a second one come down. And that is enough. The Portuguese player packs them up. Turtenwald, after a very timely rip with that Minister of Inquiry, Simon, he got it done.
Yep. Márcio was able to kill most Minister of Inquiries, but not that one.
Not the one that counted.
And immediately delivered.
We talked about that in the early, in the opening turns of the game there. Turtenwald able to, play the Minister early on, but before he could get up to the stand, start filibustering, that Magma Spray took care of him. The second one, however, I mean, this is how important it is for the Godfarer's Gift deck to fill out the graveyard. It's not living under the shadow of Scavenger Grounds anymore. It has a lot more breadth. It has a wider horizon to do its thing. And it's as simple as that. Turn 4 refurbish, put a huge beater into play. Red-black can't compete.
Yeah, and then you already saw in this game how difficult it is for Red-black to have exactly the right answers at the right time. Because suddenly when you're sitting there with your Abrade and you're facing a potential Godfarer's Gift, you cannot often afford to just keep open 2 mana indefinitely. So you have these tricky choices of, do I tap out one more time? Do I put up enough pressure that way? Or you might just sit there with your Abrade the whole time, but you lose the value game because you're basically stone raining yourself.
I mean, let's have a look at what Carvalho did in retrospect there. It's very difficult to fault the way that he played. There's no obvious glaring error that he made in the way that he... I mean, his hand was never particularly stellar, but he just never really put himself in it after Turtenwald made this giant leap forward.
I believe he had too many 2-drops. It was just Scrappy Scroungers and Carry Zevs.
Let's have a look at what Turtenwald has brought to this particular party. He's popped on his chef's hat, brewed up a real spicy one for us. And Simon, once again, I think the thing that's going to stand out the most to players who are familiar with this list is the way that it's been tuned. Yeah,
and you can actually see the strategic choices at the bottom right there. 2 Lyra Dawnbringer, 2 Sunscorch Champion, a main deck Fumigate. So these are the cards that Owen believes will give him an edge in the metagame he expected for this tournament.
This list is all about filling the graveyard, both with Godfarer's Gift and creatures, and then of course Refurbish used to sort of cheat the GPG into play. And as a result, Angel of Invention will come across as you know, a hasty 6/6 flying, vigilance, lifelink, banding, double strike, phasing, all this sort of stuff comes in and it'll just end the game on the spot. He's up against the deck of the tournament with Márcio Carvalho, playing it safe by the water. Red-black Aggro, the choice for the Portuguese superstar. And, well, Simon, I think it's fair to say a couple of surprises in this list as well.
Couple of surprises, but not as surprising of a deck list as, for example, the White-Blue Gift or even the Mono-Blue decks that we've seen at this tournament. So this is your classical Red-Black Aggro. A lot of things are absolute standard, and then you have 2 main deck Doomfalls. You have a main deck Karn, which I found quite surprising. The rest looks very, very reasonable for this tournament.
One thing I think it's worth pointing out to the viewers at home is although we had over half the field turn up with Red-Black Aggro-based decks, there is a lot of range within those sort of sub-archetypes, if you like, Simon. You know, obviously the list is still, broadly speaking, falling under one large umbrella, but it's a very big umbrella and there are a lot of people crammed underneath it.
Yeah, the big divide is really, do you want to go so far as to not play Bowmate Courier? I think that's really, if you were expecting a lot of Chain Whirler Mirrors, it's kind of the dividing line. Most players, however, are going for the full 4 Bowmats because they are just too good when you have a good draw.
Well, let's have a look at what these players are working with now in game number 3, the decider between Márcio Carvalho, we're looking at his hand here, and Owen Turtenwald, the American Hall of Famer. This is coming to you live from Las Vegas, USA, and it's my great pleasure to continue with the World Championship 2018. My name's Riley Knight, joined by Simon Gertzen in the booth, and once again, he's just, never didn't have it, Simon. Never didn't have it. Minister of Inquiry is turn number 1.
Working overtime.
Yeah. It's one. There's a lot of legislation to get through. Yep. Parliament is not in recess just yet. And Turtenwald, look at this. It's called for his parliamentary secretary here. And this is good stuff for Turtenwald, as it means that he is going to fill that bin very, very quickly.
Yeah. So you can actually spot the Refurbish in his hand already. His turn 4 could be absolutely amazing if he mills Godfarer's Gift. He might just pass the turn if he doesn't.
In hand for Turtenwald, as you can see, that Refurbish ready to be fired off. Turtenwald champing at the bit here, as Ragavan the Monkey makes an appearance alongside Carry Zev. Coming across for 3 now. Carry Zev, a premier 2-drop.
And I want to make a point about the complexity of playing against White-Blue Gift here. Now you have Doomfall and Goblin Chainroller in your hand, but also Chandra Torch of Defiance. So you know your mana is not going to work out perfectly. If you don't drop the Chainroller here, you have only those 3 points of power on the battlefield with Carry Zev and her monkey. But that means that Doomfall is potentially delayed, so the price you're paying if you want to get Refurbish out of Owen's hand is actually to not deploy Chandra on turf.
It's the classic proactive versus reactive dilemma there for Carvalho. Bit of a whiffsky there for Turtenwald. He did find a champion of wits with the Minister activation, but no GPGs for him. Looks like Christmas a long way off just yet here for the American.
Bit of a witsky.
Yeah, a whiffsky with a witsky there. Didn't quite come together for Turtenwald. So Carvalho now. He's got that Chandra in hand, in addition to a Doomfall, as you said, Simon. See what he wants to deploy here. Magma Spray as well. A little late to the party in contesting these Ministers. The damage has already been done and will continue to be done as Turtenwald can set up a couple of parliamentary committees here.
And Carvalho is doing combat math right now because he's looking at 6 points of damage. Owen would go down to 10. And of course, if you play a reactive card now in Doomfall, maybe even the Magma Spray, which actually doesn't do anything on this board because the energy is going to be depleted anyway. Suddenly you might not have enough damage. Well, you're definitely not threatening lethal on board.
Carvalho taking his time to think this one through. What's he going to go after here? Of course, the choice between Chandra or Doomfall, not an easy one to make. And again, it comes down to whether he wants to be proactive or reactive. But as we say, those Ministers are going to ask some difficult questions. They can slam 6 more cards into Turtenwald's graveyard. And I mean, that gives him good odds at finding that GPG.
Yep. And Márcio is working with very incomplete information. He can see that there are 9 cards posed to enter the graveyard, but he doesn't know what Owen has in hand. So especially that Refurbish is the scariest card. The Lyra, on the other hand, is also something that he will have to deal with on turn 5.
And critically has 5 toughness, so it can go up against Chandra real nice here. But Carvalho ultimately firing off the Doomfall, and I think, knowing what we knew, our sort of eye in the sky position here, I think that's the right call.
Yeah, but it was not an easy choice to make because ultimately you are not aiming to win the late game against this kind of deck. You are just trying to disrupt Owen for long enough so that your creatures can take it home. So for example, if Owen is holding 2 Refurbishes, then your main way of winning is to hope that Owen just doesn't find a Godfarer's Gift. So your best line would be to put on as much aggression as humanly possible.
So Turtenwald loses that refurbish from hand thanks to the Doomfall. That means Carvalho is not going to be able to do too much more with his turn other than get an attack in. Do we fire off Magma Spray here as well? Just take care of one of those ministers?
I think you do that not because you care about the Minister too much, but because you want to get a second blocker off the battlefield, making Menace just so much better.
Ew, look at that. 2 more refurbishes hitting the bin here. Turtenwald running dangerously low in his stock of the 4-drop sorcery. Going to have a look at the top 3 here. Whack him into the bin. There's another Champion of Wits and a Thopter arrest as well. So things not coming up Millhouse for Turtenwald. Carvalho in a much better position, it has to be said. He's got the pressure in conjunction with that disruption. And that's how you win games of Magic, Simon Gertzen. Pressure plus disruption. Get it done.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. First time this has ever been said. We've just made a huge breakthrough in Magic technology. Turtenwald is going to be able to deploy something this turn, and it is a Sunscourge champion from the bin, discarding an island.
So he did actually find something with those Ministers. It was looking like he didn't get anything of value. Actually, he wouldn't even found the Godfarer's Gift, so the Refurbish, in theory, wasn't even threatening anything.
It's actually a pretty good hit here for Turtenwald as he buffers that life total, slams a 4-4 into play. Decent blockers, especially in the face of Goblin Chainwhirler. Carvalho, however, with Chandra in hand, Simon, you'd have to think that she's going to be deployed to do her best work.
It doesn't get much better than that. minus 3ing on a 4-4 that has just been eternalized.
Yeah, not really doing what it says on the tin. It says eternalized, but it's only sticking around for about a minute and a half, so
that's a very short eternity.
It's a very short eternity. I mean, you have longer eternities than that at the in the line for the cashier at the supermarket here. And Carvalho is going to get busy now with Ragavan making another appearance alongside Carries. Have a curtain call here for our little simian friend. And back to Turtenwald. Here comes Lyra Dawnbringer.
Look at Goblin Chainwhirler protecting Chandra there.
Protecting this house. So Turtenwald now. The legendary Angel, you would think, would be making an appearance. And yes, indeed, slammed into play. This is better stuff for Turtenwald here. And all of a sudden, the tables begin to turn Turtenwald. That one did not come together for me, Simon. That one needed a little bit more time in the oven.
Valiant effort.
Thank you very much. Yep. So Carvalho has to figure out a way forward against Lyra Dawnbringer, as she has indeed brought the dawn for Turtenwald, or at least the beginning of it.
Well, you just plus Chandra a few times and then minus, and then magma spray the Lyra.
Easy.
If
nothing can go wrong in those intervening
no, you just
turns.
need a few turns, like 4 turns to get there.
Which is fine. I mean, nothing can happen in 4 turns.
This is actually a good start, getting a Thopter token to block with.
Hold off that Dawnbringer for at least a little longer here. Turn back the clocks. Daylight savings has begun, and Dawn's coming a little later thanks to the Pia and Alar now.
And Pia can actually deny the life gain as well with her sacrifice ability.
That's key. Yes, block and then sacrifice the token so the lifelink doesn't have an effect here. So a good hit there for Carvalho. A good start here for him.
I mean, 11 life is not so much, and Márcio with his top-decked Magma Spray can actually attack into Lyra here.
Big attack now with the Goblin Chain Whirler. Let's see if Turtenwald's going to take the bait. I think you've just got to take the damage, however.
I think so too. But this Thopter token does mean that Owen needs to make a decision here, and it's one of these things where we say, if you don't block and you don't attack with your creature, you're not really doing anything with it. So it's a difficult spot.
So Turtenwald here, pressed to make a decision. I'm very glad that I don't have to make this decision, and I'm very glad I don't even have to talk about the correct decision to make here, Simon, because it's a tricky one.
It's a tricky one, but Owen is identifying that his Lyra is not there to win him the game. It's there to buy him time, and getting a 2-for-1 and 5 life is probably the most that he could afford. He could expect from Lyra here.
So she's done some of her work, but the sun slinks below the horizon here for the Angel. Here's a strategic planning. Let's see if Turtenwald can find something. This Baffling End goes to the bin here. Must have been a good one there for Turtenwald.
It was a Plains. A very good basic land. He has Godfarer's Gift that he wants to hardcast.
Yeah, right. He wants to get up to that 7-mana Au Natural. And a second strategic planning now for Turtenwald. He's looking at a couple more basics here.
More juicy basics.
Oh, and a Baffling End as well. But it's going to be another basic here.
But see how long he's taking for the decision?
Yeah.
He knew exactly he wanted the basic land.
Did he really?
Yes. He just wanted to make it seem like he's not fetching those basics so that Márcio doesn't get the read that he's about to slam Godfarer's Gift.
Next turn, that's right. So the Oscar may indeed go to Owen Turtenwald here after that brilliant performance. And Carvalho gets into the Bobcat and digs up this graveyard. There's a lot of stuff to go through here.
Yeah, and you look at him binning a land and a baffling, and so your first instinct is,
what's he got?
He's got something that's better than baffling.
Right. Must be so good. But now Carvalho sends in the clowns. And a big attack with, looks like Chandra activation to follow it up with here.
That Chandra activation in the previous turn actually gave Owen a lot of information. The fact that Pia came down, he knew that attacking with Lyra was not an option. I think that made his block with the Lyra really a much clearer decision than it would have been.
That's a great point, because if he doesn't block and then Carvalho plays the Thopter, effectively Lyra is doing, again, stone cold nothing next turn.
But Márcio has a few hits with Chandra that make it exceptionally good to do it before combat. So ultimately he gave some information away.
7 mana now for Turtenwald, and look at this. December 25th has arrived. It's time to open up the presents, and immediately a champion of wits is going to look. Oh, and 2 fantastic hits here for Turtenwald. Double Angel of Invention. One of them's going to go straight to the graveyard. You get the sense that if Turtenwald gets the chance to untap here, Simon, things are going to look very, very good for him.
But does he get to untap?
With a Glory Bringer now from Márcio Carvalho. Chandra as well gets rid of the 4/4 token, and a big attack for the Portuguese player gets him across the line. Owen Turtenwald just a little too late to the party, and you can see there these players, big release for them as they head into the next round. An unfortunate result for Owen, who was really, he went down swinging, but unfortunately just a touch behind the pace there, Simon.
A turn more, and he wins the game. That's it was really that close.
It was very, very close indeed, and of course Chandra ultimately getting it done with that -4 Flame Slash activation. We saw it activated twice, and that can often be enough. We're going to move back to another table here. Gregor Kowalski, the only undefeated player left in the room, against BBD himself. Brian doing it at 4-1. These guys very close to leading the pace here, so we're going to see how things shape up in this red-black mirror match between these two titans of modern Magic. Looks like BBD on the play here after they've squared away games 1 and 2, split the difference between these two here at 1 and 1. And a slower start here for Brown Duan. Brown not really doing it, I would say, here as a scrap heap scrounge just kicks things off for the pole.
No magma spray.
No magma spray from Brown Duan as well. Have a look at his hand there. It seems to have a fair few higher end creatures with a couple of rekindling phoenixes. But we're going to kick things off now with a Goblin Chain Whirler for the American. Gregor Kowalski, a player that maybe you haven't heard of if you don't follow the European Pro Circuit, but I tell you what, he's one of the best in the biz on the other side of the Atlantic, Simon. You and I, as regular commentators at the European GP circuit, well, we've been across this guy several times in the booth.
Yeah, he's usually crushing it.
Generally, that's his default mode, is crushing it. Very rarely himself getting crushed. And certainly engaging that mode this time around at 5 and 0. Here's P and a La. So a 2-3 punch here for Kowalski. Back to Brown Duan, who again does have a couple of rekindling phoenixes to deploy to the battlefield, should he so choose. Another card that's huge in this matchup is Chandra's Defeat. Brown Duan playing 3 copies of it in the board. Unsurprising choice there.
No, this is really one of the great removal spells for the mirror match, and one that's actually giving you a tempo advantage when you cast it.
Oh yeah, if you can answer a Glory Bringer, a Chandra, even a Rekindling Phoenix in a pinch with a 1-mana removal spell.
Yeah,
huge.
I mean, Rekindling Phoenix, then you need to have a follow-up to deal with the egg. But Rekindling Phoenix, one of the best cards in the mirror match, period, because if your opponent has to spend 2 cards to deal with it, that's a victory. If they can't deal with it, it's most likely just going to win you the game.
Yes, Red-black Aggro, not a lot of frying pans for them to take that egg out of contention altogether. Although not really an egg. It's a pile of ashes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Phoenixes aren't known from rehatching from eggs, but we'll let the flavor judges take care of that now as we move on. With Brown Duan deploying the Phoenix to the board here. 1 of 2, of course. He's got a second one in hand, as you can see. And double Chandra's Defeat, so I like his position right now.
Yeah, Chandra's Defeat doesn't deal well with Scrap Heap Scrounger, though, but that's what Goblin Chain Whirler is for, among other things, of course. But this is actually one of the big discussion points when you're playing the mirror match. Depending on whether you're on the play or on the draw, depending on how many magma sprays you're expecting, do you want to play this low to the ground aggro game with your Scrap Heap Scroungers, or are you saying, look, I'm playing so many value cards, I'm playing so many expensive cards that a 2-mana artifact that can't block is not really what I'm looking for.
So, we're going to have a look at the hand of Kowalski here, and Brown Duan better watch out. We got 2 Chain Whirlers here. That's the vibe we're picking up now from Kowalski, in addition to these huge 4-drops, Chandra and Rekindling Phoenix. So all business all day with Kowalski. There's just one thing he's missing.
4th land.
Brown Duan leading the charge in that front with 4 lands. And it's going to be a cut on the Thopter token just to enable an attack with the Phoenix here. Brown Duan not mucking around. We're going to see a response with a Chandra's Defeat here from Kowalski.
Brian was also playing around a Magma Spray there. Kowalski with a single red open. If he blocks with the Thopter token and Magma Spray's end of turn, the Phoenix is gone for good.
Yep, so Brown Duan certainly making sure he deploys his removal in a very judicious fashion there. Cut to ribbons, not often used to get rid of 1/1s, but hey, opportunity's always there. Back to Kowalski now, finds that 4th land. That's going to be huge here, Simon. Means he can start to deploy some of these real club bangers. But going to get busy now. Go and get some lunch with these 3.
Yeah, and we're probably going to see Goblin Chain Whirler first because Gregor definitely wants to take care of that egg, which is not an egg.
So Chandra's Defeat gets rid of P and a La. Looks like it's Pia's Defeat. And here is Chain Whirler. Going to start whirling those chains around.
I think that was already clear to Brian because Gregor wouldn't kill the Phoenix without having a solution to the egg as well. Brian quite punished there for attacking with the Chain Whirler, it seems, because he took 6 on the crackback.
Yeah, that Goblin Chain Whirler. I mean, it's, defense isn't the first thing on its mind, but when you see a Goblin with Squillion Chain's wearing around at light speed, you're not going anywhere near it, whether you're attacking or defending. So it is good at holding off the those opposing creatures, and that's what we see Brown doing here.
Yeah, of course. He's at 11 now. He doesn't want to just leave himself dead to a Glorybringer or something like that.
So Kowalski, as you can see, a lot of 4-drops in his hand, a real glut of them, it's fair to say. He's going to be able to deploy whichever one he chooses. Simon, which one do you like here?
I think Chandra is best when you can protect her, which is something that the Scrappy Scroungers don't do. So Rekindling Phoenix, I've said it before, one of the key cards, absolute best cards in the mirror match, and actually once again a situation where it's almost board parity here.
So Kowalski with double Scrappies and a Rekindling Phoenix. Brown with a Phoenix of his own, in addition to that Goblin Chain Whirler.
You can see why a lot of players were gravitating towards Vraska's Contempt in this almost mono-red deck.
It is really one of the best answers, not just against Red-Black, but against the format as a whole, taking care of Teferi, getting rid of these problematic resilient threats like Rekindling Phoenix. I think a good spot to be in. But again, just overcoming this deck, which has really been the deck of the year. You know, Hazaret, Chandra, and friends have been winning Pro Tours and tournaments since, you know, July last year.
It's the deck of the standard format.
For sure. And we're seeing it in its very much its last hurrah here at the 2018 World Championships live from Las Vegas in the United States. Riley Knight, Simon Gertzen in the booth. Certainly is a pleasure to bring you coverage of this huge event. Some of the best players in the world assembling this weekend to do battle for their share of over $250,000. 100,000 clams, I should say, going home in the back pocket of the winner. You need a very large back pocket to fit it in, I would say. I guess you could put some in the front pockets as well. We're not going to enforce which pockets the money gets put in.
And some airlines have very strict carry-on restrictions.
That's true as well. And then there's customs as well. Anything to declare? Yes, I have 100,000 mollusks to bring with me. It'll be a very hard time for... I mean, you know, maybe it's too much of a burden. Kowalski now, again with a 4-drop. See which one it is this time. Can pick his poison. Got a couple of Planeswalkers here with Chandra and Khan. And in a better position to defend them with the Phoenix, although not great as a 4-3 against the first striking Chain Whirler.
I don't love the combination of the Scrap Heap Scroungers and the large amount of Planeswalkers with not only Chandra but also Karn. But I mean, Gregor knows what he's doing. This actually, if you qualified for Worlds, it's a super good strategy, talking about, let's say, time investment and what you get out of it, to just test Red-Black and the Red-Black Mirror. Because
that's generally what you're going to be playing a lot of.
Well, you know that every game you play, every match you test is going to be a relevant one for the metagame you're facing.
That's a great point. It's a great point, and it is interesting to see the way that these metagames shake out in these, you know, in these smaller tournaments here with a reduced number of players. As a result, I mean, these players would have had more in-depth discussions about predicting, you know, to the person even, what decks we're going to, or which decks I should say, were going to be brought to the table. Here's a Scrap Heap Scrounger for Brown now. Again, not the best defensive creature, can't really protect the crew, but Brown doesn't have any attacks here, he decides. And so Chandra lives to fight another day.
So there are a few things going on here. One is that BBD played a creature that can't block, but that can crew Heart of Kirin. So he has ample blockers available. Which should mean that Kowalski doesn't feel that he can attack into a board that has a 3/3 first striker and a 4/4 to block his 3/2s. At the same time, suddenly Kowalski is in a spot, because he has this ground force, even though it's actually dominated, it means that they are virtually protecting Chandra in a really weird way. They are sitting there saying, if you attack, we are going to attack back. So Kowalski gets the benefit of Chandra activations here.
A little bit of a cold war going on between these two players, as neither of them really want to step over the brink.
I think Chandra is more into hot wars.
Yes, certainly. I don't think she'd do. Yeah, she would not have been a useful political advisor in the early to mid '60s. I don't think. Wouldn't want to let her anywhere near the button there. We'll see now what Kowalski is up to. Finds that 5th land, although it's not going to be a huge amount of use to him right now. Goblin Chain Whirler and Khan in hand for him.
There is always the play available to you that you shoot the Phoenix out of the sky and follow it up with the Chain Whirler. You can even try to bait BBD into blocking with Heart of Kirin. Although in this case you would no, I think that's fine because the Phoenix, the egg token is not going to be blocking. Yeah, you definitely want to. Oh wow, that's aggressive.
So wow, yeah, Kowalski is just firing. Is that firing off of ribbons there?
He revealed cut to ribbons with Chandra and then decided not to cast it.
Okay, that makes more sense. I was very confused about the position of that card there, but now, no, look, a Khan comes down, going to make a construct as well. And oh, my goodness, that's a big metal boy.
That's a 4/4?
Straight away, thanks to all those scrap heap scroungers. Very relevant threat here for Brown Doon to deal with. And it's only going to get worse if Khan, the Sign of Urza, sticks around. A powerhouse Planeswalker from Dominaria made an impact across many formats, all the way back to Legacy and even Vintage, I've seen.
And now you can see that Kowalski is really just playing this board game where he wants to have more permanents, more non-land permanents on the battlefield than his opponent, and that way he's dictating the pace of the play. So I'm still a little bit surprised by this decision not to cast Cut to Ribbons and Chain Whirler in the same turn, because it's also quite the powerful turn, and you get to untap with Ribbons in your
Did he have 4 red? Maybe he was bottlenecked on coloured mana. There with the
I don't know how his energy supply is looking.
Yeah, he might need to chug a 6-hour energy drink there to get the energy that he needed. Yeah, it looks like he actually didn't have enough red mana.
Because he drew his basic swamp.
Yeah, you can see it hiding out there. Well, it's very difficult to see, in fact, but it is there just under those 2 Planeswalkers. And Brown Doon firing off an Abrade on the construct, and now looking to go up against the Phoenix. Going to falter that one with P and Alar, and a big attack across for Kowalski. What's he got to say about this? Brown Doon really turning the screws. All-out aggression from the American here. And things finally coming to an end in the favor of Brian Brown Doon. Game number 2 going the way of the American, and he's beside himself with joy. Look at that. Raw emotion on his face.
He really made great use of the fact that Scrap Heap Scrounger can't block. And I was saying, there's this, it's like a virtual detriment of attacking, but BBD realized this is the one turn that he still has before the Planeswalkers are going to take over.
Simon, we've talked about the red-black mirror match. We've talked about the fact that it is obviously going to be a real factor at this tournament, given the prevalence of this list. Let's talk about how things change post-board, or I guess the texture of the matchup across all 3. My first question, I've got 2 questions for you. Question number 1, part A, Simon. How much flexibility is there for the red-black deck to position itself in game 1 for the mirror? And question number 2, how much does that change post-board?
Okay, I think in game 1 you are not you're not super flexible.
Okay.
So the thing you could theoretically do is not play Bomber Courier, but I think that's going too far. I think it's too good in all the other matchups, and even in the mirror match, it's a great card.
And you can see on your screen that Kowalski choosing to play just 3 copies of it, so maybe a slight hedge, a slight sort of concession to the fact that Red, Black, and Goblin Chain Whirler is going to be everywhere. But again, as you say, Simon, not a lot of flexibility in game 1.
And number 4 in the sideboard if you're playing against Greg Orange.
Let's have a look at what BBD is working for, and maybe that'll give us a chance to discuss the sideboard and how things change there. Obviously, Chandra's defeat is a slam dunk inclusion. I like Magma Spray as well. What else speaks to you here in games 2 and 3?
Just go even bigger. I think Karn can be good. You can't overdo it, because if you have a bunch of 4-drops, you miss your land drops, or you have too many of the Scrap Heap Scroungers, you're really not getting there. You also have to be really careful with your removal. If you look at all these cards in the main deck, really the one card that you don't want is Bomber Courier. And that's simply because Goblin Chain Whirler punishes you so much.
One of the things that I think is really going to be interesting to sort of break down after this tournament is, as we touched upon before, Simon, the way that these red-black aggro decks were sort of positioned, right? We know that there's a broad archetype, and I don't think anyone's attempting to sort of say, oh, you know, there are so many sub-archetypes that they're almost different decks. That's not a particularly genuine way to look at it, but I think it's really worth pointing out that there's still a fair bit of maneuvering to do about, you know, how many Bomat Couriers you play, whether you go up to all the way up to Glory Bringer at 5, which of the 500,000 ridiculous 4-drops do you play in the list? You know,
I think this is the most difficult decision. How many Phoenixes, Chandras, Karns do you want to, Hazareds do you want to run?
And as you might have seen there, slight differences between the lists of these two players. But anyway, you slice it, my friends. We're off to game number 3, the decider between Gregor Kowalski and Brian Brown-Duin here at the World Championships of Magic the Gathering for 2018. My name's Riley Knight, joined by Simon Gertzen, the Pro Tour champion in the booth. And round number 6 is on its merry way now with these two players in the red-black mirror. Scrap heap scrounge now for Brown-Duin. Back to Kowalski, who has had not too much to do with his early turns, and a Braid to take care of the Heart of Kiran, and also with a perfect answer now to the Scrap Heap Scrounger with a Magma Spray.
Yeah, this is actually going really well for Kowalski. First threat handled, second threat handled, both with the perfect answers, and now on an empty board with a 2-mana advantage, a Karn activation.
Just what you want here. Things all go in the way of the poll here. And we'll see which particular poison Brown-Duin's going to pick. Looks like we're going to put the unlicensed disintegration in hand. Goblin Chainwhirler exiled with a silver token. And Simon, you talked about the need to protect your planeswalkers once you've deployed them. Kowalski with a rare luxury in this matchup of just having free reign with his Karn.
Because he had a Braid for Heart of Kiran and Magma Spray for Scrap Heap Scrounger, it couldn't have gone better for him with the how his answers lined up against BBD's threats.
Karn all the way up to 7 loyalty now as we start swinging around that Great Axe with the D12 coming down. Let's have a look with a Rekindling Phoenix. Extra pressure for Kowalski. And Simon, I mean, I've never prematurely and incorrectly called a game of Magic in my career, and I don't anticipate to do it now. This one might be in the books.
Yeah, the Doomfall is looking good, but the problem is really these Planeswalkers. Once you fall behind on the board, it's so difficult to deal with anything, really.
Brown-Duin finds a mountain here and is going to Magma Spray that little pile of ashes. Yeah, back to Kowalski.
You could actually see that BBD was preparing for a turn where he doesn't draw another land, because otherwise he could have Doomfalled the Phoenix out of Kowalski's from Kowalski.
Double removal spells off the top there with the Karn. Doomfalled, Doomfallen.
To Doomfall.
Good Doomfalled. Looks like it's going to be an Abrade that hits the exile zone as well. And Kowalski able to pile on some more pressure here. Double Scrapperinos coming down here for the poll. And Brown-Duin, he's really being stretched to the limit. Double Karn in hand for him. Rekindling Phoenix, Doomfall, Chandra's defeat. But you can see what Kowalski's working with, and he's in a much better position, you have to say. See if Brown-Duin can find that land that he needs, or is Kowalski going to continue his rampage of this tournament? There's a mountain now for Brown-Duin. There's always one at Worlds. We've had Manfield, we've had William Huey Jensen go on these huge tears. Is Kowalski going to be our next undefeated run?
His day one certainly looks great, and the thing is with this kind of tournament, you're going to lock yourself into the top 4 relatively early, but you're also changing a lot of the math for the remaining competitors.
Because you're just eating up all their wins.
And that means suddenly you're looking at potential top 4s with 4 or 5 losses.
So Karn grabs his pickaxe and once again heads down to this personal howling mine that Kowalski has built for himself. Really paying dividends here, having this uncontested Planeswalker. He's drawn 4 extra cards off the sign of Urza, as you can see.
It's a silver mine.
Simon Gertzen. I'm not wearing a hat, my friend, but if I were, I'd take it off to you. And a Glorybringer in hand here for Kowalski. Really just trying to put the finishing touches on this game. I mean, Brown-Duin is going to be able to contest. He has a Chandra's defeat. He has some business of his own, but Kowalski's just so far ahead on more or less every measurable axis apart from the who is losing one.
Yeah, that Karn hasn't even needed to make constructs.
Glorybringer's not going to get across here. Glory will not be brung this day, says Brown-Duin. As he takes another draw.
Kowalski also knew that he was trading 5 for 1 there.
Yeah. 5-1 mana, not 5-1 cards. That would be a turn up for the books here. Here's Karn, the sign of Urza, coming down for Brown-Duin. Anything you can do, I can do slightly worse. Because, of course, only on 5 loyalty. It's going to be easier for Kowalski to contest this particular Scion. And we see cut to ribbons going to the hand of BBDski. Back to Kowalski now. Karn ticks down to bring an Eldest Reborn into the hand of Kowalski, and that's going to sacrifice a Planeswalker here for BBD. Away goes the Khan here. Things looking very good for Kowalski. Brown-Duin really having a lot of trouble getting himself into this game.
Yeah, he was on the back foot, stumbling on mana, and then facing this Planeswalker without a real way to interact with it, really.
So Brown-Duin going to strap on the blindfold and hit the tank here. Not sure exactly how he's going to proceed. His hand, as you can see, Goblin Chain Whirler, a couple of 4-drops in Khan and the Phoenix, and here is Cut to Ribbons as well. But it's going to be Khan Part 2. And the cut goes to the hand as well here, Magma Spray. Obviously too good at cutting down that Scrap Heap Scrounger. I have to say, Brown-Duin's making a game of it. Yeah, he really is. I'm very impressed.
He is unfazed, or at least he pretends to be unfazed by what's going on the other side of the battlefield. Facing off a creature advantage, a Planeswalker advantage, and the Eldest Reborn to top it off is not an easy thing to accept here.
Brown-Duin discarding the Cut to Ribbons there. He's got enough ribbons. More ribbons than a Lincraft store right now, and so one of them hits the bin. Scrap Heap Scrounger comes across for another 3. And Khan, upstairs, downstairs, in my lady's chamber, it's going to be Goblin Chain Whirler coming in from the exile zone, barely touching the hand of Kowalski. And Brown-Duin's Khan goes down to 5 as a result. Kowalski ships. And let's see what Chef Brown-Duin can cook up this turn here, Simon. The ingredients in his spice rack, not great. But then again, I don't know what card there is that would, you know, get him too much vertical height against what's going on here.
That deals with Planeswalkers, enchantments, and recursive artifact creatures.
He's going to get on the phone, Yvonne Flock and ask to borrow Planar Cleansing. Not looking too good here for Brown-Duin. So, the American, considering his options, going to put a Magma Spray into his hand. And that's going to remove, you would think, the Scrap Heap Scrounger from the equation. Yes, indeed. Now, Kowalski, one of the big difficulties for Brown-Duin here is this Eldest Reborn, which is going to pop off the top next turn, bring back potentially a Glory Bringer, maybe a Rekindling Phoenix. Yeah. Any way you slice it, Kowalski's in a great shape.
Kowalski might actually be thinking about killing his own Scrap Heap Scrounger in response to the Magma Spray, so that he can just get it back.
No, that's not the way the news goes here for Kowalski. And a 4-drop in the shape of a Rekindling Phoenix. But let's see what happens with this Eldest Reborn. You can't help but think, Simon, this card is going to be huge post-rotation. We've seen it just a little bit of a sniff here and there at the GP level, at the PT level. This uncommon is very powerful indeed, and we maybe haven't seen its final form just yet. I'm excited to see what's in store for this powerful enchantment. But right now, Kowalski in the enviable position of having his pick of the litter across both graveyards.
I think Kowalski's doing the math here, whether he can find lethal. Probably with the help of a Glory Bringer.
And yes, once again, going to try to bring glory. Let's see if it doesn't get left behind this time. Big Dragon coming in. And this time, Brown-Duin in F6 mode. He is tapped out, unable to make any plays. He can block with his Phoenix, but there's not too many decisions that he has to make here. And on 10, a precarious position.
And that Phoenix, I have a feeling, is not long for this world.
Yes. Indeed here, Kowalski holding on to Magma Spray, Chandra's Defeat, and an unlicensed Disintegration. You gotta get your paperwork in order, Simon. You cannot go around without a license.
Oh, he gets an artifact. That's a sweet.
Oh, even better. The long arm of the law coming down on this Phoenix, driving without a permit. And the pile of ashes going to be blown away by the dragon as well. And as is Brown-Duin, Gregor Kowalski on a tear. The man cannot be contained. 6-0 here at the World Championship. A dream start for the Polish superstar, Simon. He's really hitting his straps.
We were saying it. He's been crushing it in Europe. He has had a tremendous season on the Proto circuit as well. And a lot of his peers have realized that this is actually just a superb Magic player that is now breaking onto the scene, really.
I think the thing with Kowalski that we're beginning to see is this enormously large stick that he has been carrying around. He has been speaking very softly, stepping very softly, but Teddy Roosevelt's philosophy only can go so far. And as we have seen now, Kowalski making his breakout performance to the world stage. As we know, as we've said, we know this guy. He's been a mainstay of European Magic for years, but all of a sudden now, people are starting to take notice. Kowalski, 6-0 at Worlds. You cannot ignore results like that.
And he's the one bringing Red-black to a tournament where he knows it's the best players in the world, and they are going to be playing Red-black. I have to play mirror matches of this all weekend, and I'm going to believe in myself, believe in my abilities to get an over 50% record to actually have a chance at top 4.
And he's certainly done a fantastic job of that so far, my friends. And there is plenty more action where that came from. Right now, we got to go to a break, but on the other side of this, there'll be more action live from the World Championship of Magic the Gathering. We'll see you after this.